All right, we are live for today's AmeriFirst AmeriTrust Speaker Series. We're going to give a couple of minutes and before we really get started. But Tom, what's cooking today?
Hey man, I'm in the great state of Texas here in Dallas, and the market is completely on fire, as everybody knows. So we're going to talk about listing attraction today. We're going to talk about making sure that everybody's focused on the thing that matters most. So I'm just pumped to be here, man. And matter of fact, I'm looking right now. I see all the participants jumping in. Do me a favor, everybody. Go to the chat and give us a heads up. Where are you at? Where are you in the country? Which company do you work with? Give us a little quick yo from that standpoint, either in the Q&A or in the chat. Either one is fine.
I think I don't know that we have a chat set up on this Zoom call, so do it in the Q&A, and we'll get that organized. And we want to hear where you're from, what you're doing, right? Who you're representing today, what you want to learn today, right? Most importantly, what is the goal coming out of today?
So I got Valerie coming in from Michigan, David from Orlando, Tammy from Southwest Michigan, Betty Lee from Raleigh, North Carolina, Joe Olmstead from sunny Florida. Love it, love it. Linda coming in from Indiana. So a bunch of people checking in. Good to see everybody. It gives me a little context for where everybody's at too. So super, super good. We're going to use the Q&A feature, guys, today. I'm going to spend 40 minutes giving you literally stuff you're going to do today to find a seller. Today, I'm going to show you one texting script as an example that is going to activate people inside your database to raise their hand to either start giving them a CMA or literally listing their house in the next 60 to 90 days. So we got a lot of ground to cover, but I'm going to do that in 40 minutes. And then we'd love to open it up for some Q&A, which will use that same Q&A functionality. So Craig, it's right up on the hour. Do you got a couple of things you want to say before we jump in and get started?
It is indeed, and I'm not sure where Joe's in sunny Florida. It is overcast, raining, and we got some thunder and lightning for both Kate and I. So we may have some Zoom challenges, but we'll roll through it as we always do. Welcome to the AmeriFirst AmeriTrust Speaker Series. My name is Craig Olmstead, and I'll be the host for today's show. We are using Zoom, and in the event we get Zoom bombed or have technical difficulties, we will shut it down and try to start that back over again. We encourage your questions, as Tom has mentioned, so please enter them down in the Q&A, comments, questions, whatever it may be. We are incredibly excited to kick off the 2021 Speaker Series with our good friend, Tom Ferry. Tom joined us last in 2019 before any of this craziness of 2020 entered all of our lives. As I was reading some of my notes from that date in 2019, I read how our manager in Cadillac, Michigan said her agents were so familiar with Tom, they couldn't believe they had an opportunity through AmeriFirst to spend some time with Tom today. And what an incredible opportunity that is. Well, he's back and he's better than ever and plans to share some ideas and concepts with each of you today. So for those of you that may not know him, Tom did not want me to do this today, but I'm doing it anyway. He is the #1 ranked real estate educator by Swanpool Power 200 and the best-selling author of Life by Design, Mindset, Model, and Marketing. Those are two books there. As founder and CEO of Ferry International, the real estate industry's leading coaching and training company, Tom's ever-growing influence impacts professionals in a wide variety of ways, including rigorous accountability coaching, highly engaging training events, 2 best-selling books, which we mentioned earlier, and his legendary keynote speech. Tom has more than 30,000 hours of coaching experience and works daily to help agents and brokers grow their businesses while balancing and loving their personal lives. Tom's love and passion for life is fueled by a commitment to discipline and holding professionals accountable to fulfill their greatness. Now it's time for Tom to share a little bit of that secret sauce with all of you today. Tom, thanks so much for being here, and tell us how 2020 treats you.
2020 was unbelievable, my friend. And I say that recognizing that the entire year was full of tragedy and triumph. And I was knee deep, probably as everybody was, in the middle of all of that. So I'm actually going to open up my deck real fast here, everybody. So hopefully you will see my screen go live because I got a bunch of stuff I want to share with you all. Hold on. In case you're wondering if this is a live show. All right. So I've got my deck up, and look, I mean, the question, Craig, I get it all the time, was how was 2020? And there's no doubt that for everybody watching, we dealt with social unrest, a pandemic, We were forced into the digital transformation of our work and our home life. You've got right now a client of yours you haven't called in years, sitting at their desk. By the way, their desk is their dining room table. They're watching their 3-year-old, their 5-year-old, their 7-year-old, and the dog's barking, and their spouse is working out of the closet. And they just hung up a phone with their manager who said, "Hey, you're doing a great job. I really appreciate you, but heads up, we're taking that 20,000 square feet space that we all used to work in, and we're going to get it down to about 4,000 square feet. And we're going to stay remote like this for a long time, at least, the next 3 to 5 years." And in the moment that guy or gal hung up the phone, looked around and said, "I need a new house. I need a better working situation." That's happening every day all over the world right now, my friends. So I want to get into this conversation with you. And yes, we can reflect back on the tragedy and the triumph of 2020. It's more about right now. It's more about you doing what I would refer to as the brilliant basics. The brilliant basics. Having done 35,000 hours of coaching, it's not about the shiny penny right now. It is about doing what we know works, the fundamentals. That's what's having the biggest impact. When I look at what'll be announced in the next few weeks, all of the top 1,000 agents in the country and the 15,000 plus on the America's Best list, the vast majority being our clients, they're all saying the same thing. It's the brilliant basics right now that are moving the needle and causing me to win. So I've only got a little time today. I got a lot to share, and heads up, you're going to get a copy of all of the slides in case you're wondering. So if you're not following me on social, strongly recommend it. Matter of fact, next Wednesday, I'll be on Clubhouse, 5 o'clock Central, with a couple branding geniuses talking about how are you going to position yourself in the market, recognizing that you've got Zillow and Realtor and Trulia and HomeLight and 500 others that are all doing everything in their power to activate your database to go someplace else. So if you want to know more about that, join me on Clubhouse or check out what I'm doing on Instagram or even my Facebook Live last week that's already at several 100,000 views, where I'm talking about these positioning strategies, what you have to do to set yourself apart and put yourself in a position to win. So with all that said, here's the question, Craig, I'm asking everybody. Forget 2020, right? Even though for many of us, we know that 2020 was an unbelievable year in housing. Again, tragedy and triumph, the triumph of home ownership and what it means now to own a home, or what you now expect at home. Everything has changed. So I'm now focusing this question to everybody to figure out where their mindset is. Like, could 2021 be the absolute best year of your career? I would argue, just based upon the math, based upon the data, the answer is 1,000% yet. And yet, there will be several agents this year in the midst of what I would refer to as the greatest set of waves for any surfer out there we've ever seen, that will completely miss the mark because they're not doing the brilliant basics. So let's jam on that. By the way, I put this in for my buddy Ron, right? Living down in San Diego forever and a surfer. This is how many people are viewing the market right now. But the reality is, it looks a whole lot more like this, my friends. By the way, that's a documented, that was the biggest wave ever surfed over in, I want to say Portugal. Can't think of the exact surf spot at the top of my head, but like the wave of opportunity that is coming your way right now is so tremendous. You can't get distracted by nonsense. You got to focus on the brilliant basics, the things that we know work. So let's talk about it, right? The first thing when people hire myself or any one of my 170 coaches around the world is like, okay, what do I need to do, coach? And it always starts with this first. You got to know exactly what you want. Now, you've already set your goals. You've already written your plan, but I'd love for you to consider, right? When we surveyed all of our top clients, these are men and women that are selling, let's call it 36 homes being the low end, 3,100 homes, not a broker, a team, 3,100 homes on the highest end, right? I said, you'd say probably $30 million in volume to $1 billion in volume as an example. When you ask the best of the best, what are they putting their focusing on? Like, where are they concentrating? This is what it looks like. Now, the only bold one is where I want you to focus. Because I hear every single day, Tom, there's no inventory. Tom, there's no inventory. Oh my God, I'm writing offers and I can't get my offers accepted. And now the rules are changing in the way we present it. Oh my God, everything is, what do I do? And my response is, you're sitting on the wrong side of the table. You're sitting on the wrong side of the table. Let me explain. Several years ago, my older son went with, lovingly, Coach Cooper, his little league baseball coach, who also happens to be an investment banker. And he said, hey, would you like me to take Michael? I'm going to take him on a road show with the CEO. We're going to go raise a bunch of money. And I'm like, man, if you would do that, it would mean the world to me, right? We all know the value of that mentorship by a friend, right? So he takes my son, they go to New York, and I happen to meet them there the day their road trip ended. And I remember sitting in the lobby bar or the cafe, whatever it was, at the London Hotel. And I looked at my son, 17 years old, and I said, what'd you learn? He's like, Coach Cooper's a really good presenter. It was really interesting to listen to these hedge fund guys and gals talk about what was important to them and the questions they asked and how they put the CEO on the hot seat. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, but like overarching, what was the big thing you learned? And he sat there, 17 years old. He looked at me and he said, I know what side of the desk I want to sit at. And I thought, here's a 17-year-old who basically just said, I want to be a listing agent. I don't want to be the one writing offers. Now, I am not foolish. 50% of every transaction has a buyer in it. I'm saying to you, if you were to focus more on how you're going to generate more listing appointments, you will win the day. And that's what I'm going to spend my time on. So let's jam on that. You ready? The question I'm asking everybody right now, and I want you to write it down. Don't put it in the Q&A because there'll be too many comments inside there. But right now, I want to know from you, like, do you have a defined listing goal for the year? Like when you broke down your business plan, do you say, for example, I want to sell 30 homes and I want 18 to be listings sold. And I want the balance, 12 to be buyer controlled sales. And I want to try and double end 5 of the 18. Like, were you that precise? Or did you kind of say, wow, I want to sell like 25 homes or 30 homes or 80 homes or 500 homes or 7 homes. And whatever happens, happens. Like, I'm just happy that it's happening. What we know is the people that have a clearer definition are the ones that are dominating right now, because we've all only got, 24/7, 365. How you use that time and where you spend that time, that's the difference that makes the difference. But you know that. So let's keep going. The second part of this is you got to create a simple plan. And I'm just going to share with you very candidly what I ask all of my coaching clients to do and all my clients around the world. And it starts with understanding this quote. I'll say to people, if you just show me your routines, I can predict the level of success you're going to have. It's that simple, right? If we were all together in like a live event, I would say to you, put your hand out like this, right? And if you're driving, don't do this, right? So, here's your goals. And then I say to you, now show me where your behaviors are. Like, you say you want to sell 40 homes a year, but if your behaviors are going this direction, if your routines are going this direction, if you say I want to sell 40 homes a year and I want 70% of it to come from my database, and you don't make the phone calls, you don't send the emails, you don't send the texts, you don't love on them, you don't use the giftology strategies and everything else, then we know what's going to happen, right? Your routines, my friend, are basically winning. And here's the thing. If your goals are here and your routines are here, we need to align them. So let's talk about just a basic plan. You ready? The first thing is you want to design your day. Now, I know someone's going to say, oh, Tom, I'm in real estate and it's so crazy. And I'm like, yeah, you and everybody else on the planet. But here's the thing. If all you're doing is reacting all day long to a problem, a challenge, something happening in your personal life, and you don't do the brilliant basics, you don't do at the minimum the 4 things you see here, if you're not doing this, I would argue you're not in the game. Let's look at it. Number 1 is some kind of morning routine that fires you up. There's a million books on this subject. I've done tens of videos on it. What you need to understand is this. Forget the how, it's the why. Like, everyone knows how to start their day right, but are you clear on the why you need to start your day right? See, I believe the world is full of energy-sucking vampires. And we, my friends, we're not the slayers of the vampires, but we have to be overly energized, almost like we're the gas station metaphorically, and customers come in and we fill them up, and a deal's falling apart and we save it, right? And then somebody calls with a problem and we fix it. Like, we're bucket fillers all day long, and we're against all these people that are like, what are you trying to be motivated, right? If you're not doing something every day to lift up your own spirit, your resiliency, if you're not doing something, you're tired. We're 45, 46 days in, we're 340 days into the pandemic. And listen, you're probably tired. And I know why, because I'm looking at your morning routines. Second one is your business morning routine, your daily hot sheets, your role play, and your 5542, right? I'll get to the 5542 in a sec, but daily hot sheets. The number of agents that'll hit me up on Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram, or now Clubhouse, or wherever else, and they're like, oh, Tom, like, I'm really struggling to find a property for my client. What do you recommend? And I'm like, oh, you sound like the kind of person that probably is spending a little too much time scanning the MLS for buyers instead of scanning the MLS for correlations. What is the correlation between the market doing what it's doing and the stock market and the local housing market and the local job market and what's happening in big business and what's happening in politics? Finding these correlations, this is what makes you a better agent. My client, Andy C., who I think will be, I don't know, between 10 and 14 in the world. Last year, $600 million in sales in Silicon Valley, 300 transactions, pretty productive guy. He and I are chatting all the time about just the correlation between the Silicon Valley home prices and Apple stock. Like that seems to be the one correlation that continues to drive prices or cause prices to soften. It's fascinating. How are you looking at the market? Are you just looking for a buyer, trying to find them a house? Or are you saying, this is my business and my job is to really understand everything about the market so I can be the knowledge broker? Obviously, role play, because you don't want to do it on clients. It's too expensive. It's too expensive, my friends, to practice on your clients, to role play a scenario about commissions or price or terms or a leaseback agreement to get them the highest price, but also not put them in a position where they have to go race out and be fearful of buying something. Like all of these tactics are just that, they're tactics. And if you don't practice them in the moment when it's time to pull that out and actually use it, you might whiff it. And I would argue your clients are worth it and your income is worth it. Just saying. Manage the daily tasks, all the obvious stuff. And number 4 is go on appointments. So if I pulled up your calendar right now, what would I see? How much organization and thoughtfulness would I see of how you're scheduling your day, how you're scheduling your life with the intention to follow through on it? Another way to look at it, my friends, is daily checklists. I've been doing this with clients for as long as I can remember. I'm now 31 years in the industry and 27 or 28 years now as a business coach. And one of the easiest things I can do is say, okay, tell me all the things you have to do on a daily basis that would cause you to win. And if we operated like that at 75 to 80% of every day, what would happen? I'm coaching a CEO of a company. I can't name the name, but it's well, I can tell you, it's Berkshire Hathaway, it's Home Services, Gino Bafari, like the whole company, like the CEO of the whole deal. And all he and I talk about is, hey man, here's what's on the checklist. This is what you got to do. And if you just follow the checklist, you produce the results and you win. And yet I know agents that wake up every day in front of streets of gold. Streets of gold. That's what the real estate business is like right now. And every day they wake up and it's like, come on 7, right? You're hoping and praying that something good happens. We want to design it. So look at that list, everything that you could do. And maybe you're the kind of person where if you look at a schedule, you're like, but if you have a checklist in front of you, it's kind of how you operate before we used to go on vacation, right? You'd make up your list and you'd attack it like crazy and bang, 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 bang. I got it all done. Try something like this to get the most out of this year. Now, moving away from this, I'm going to talk to you a lot about appointments, right? Generating more appointments, going on more appointments. It's a fundamental truth. I go back to the first year, Steve Murray, who is the owner of Real Trends, who published the Wall Street Journal Top 1000, which I've been a partner of for a couple of years. The first year he published the list, it was only 100 agents. And on that list, 16 of them were my clients. The number one guy was a guy named John McMonagle. John and I sat down one day in Newport Beach and he said, Tom, I want to become more successful. What do I need to do? And he was already a $90 million producer. This was a good agent. I asked him one question. How many listing appointments do you go on in a given week? He's like, 2 or 3. How many do you have capacity for? He was like, capacity? I would love to go on 3 a day. And I said, so then what if we operationalized everything in your business to get you on 2 to 3 appointments every single day? And the rest is history. I mean, he just skyrocketed. It was just the decision that he was going to be an appointment setting, value delivering, trust building and maintaining machine. So he would go on a listing appointment if somebody wanted to do something in a year, because he knew if he went there, he could build rapport, he could create trust, he could deliver value, right? And it was better for him to do that than it was to say, okay, great, I'll call you in 9 months, because you all know what happens to someone when they say, we're going to move in a year. And you say, great, I'll call you in 9 months. By the time you call, you get this, the number to the home you didn't sell is, right? Because they've already moved. So this mindset that I want everybody to be in is, Your job is to be on appointments every day, getting them and going every single day. Now, with that said, before I go into the marketing, you got to track and measure everything. So just take a look at this old post from, God, like 2016, I think it was. One of my clients actually doing a session just like this, right? He put this up in his office on a wall, and guess what? Everyone would walk by and go, "Oh, Jason, did you go to a Tom Ferry seminar and get all motivated?" He's like, "Matter of fact, I did. I'm going to take 225, listing appointments booked for the year." And you see, he failed miserably and had his best year ever. Why? Because what do we know? The second you put your goal up visual, even if it's on your bathroom mirror or in front of your spouse or with your kids or in the office, or you do what I recommend, which is start posting it on social, the moment you declare, "I'm going on this many appointments," people start saying, "Hey, what's that about? What are you doing? What does it mean?" And "Oh, that inspires me. I'm going to start working out more," or whatever they're going to do. Because here's the thing. It's Pearson's law. Whatever you measure improves, period. Whatever you measure improves, period. If you add accountability, the rate of improvement accelerates. It becomes geometric. So I'm asking you, have a defined listing goal for the year, and then know exactly how many appointments you need to go on, and whether you show it like this, or you take up what we call the listing appointment social challenge. This is my client, Tim Smith from Newport Beach. By the way, I think he was number 13 last year in the world and $705 million in sales, just bonkers. But this was weeks ago. He was at, when I talked to him on Tuesday on our coaching session, he was already at like 46 listing appointments for the year. His goal is 300 listing appointments this year. Think about that. Now you might be saying, "God, if I just went on 10% of that, that'd be bonkers." I now have thousands of clients that are posting on social, number 7 of 38 listing appointments. And you know what? People are starting to say, "Well, what is that? What does that mean?" Well, hey, the market's really challenging right now. I'm going to be super honest. We have more buyers than we have homes to sell. So I'm really focusing this year on finding the people that want to take advantage of the 2021 pricing and potentially lease back their home so they're in a position to sell for top dollar and not be under pressure to buy the next one, right? And all of a sudden now you're in this wonderful dialogue that is about seller attraction. So something to think about. So speaking of, and I'm right on track with my time, let's go spend the balance of our 20 minutes talking about things you can do today and maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, some of you'll have to operationalize, but most of it is today for you to attract more listings. So the first thing I want you to get is, if you've done any work with me or you're new to me, or maybe it's the first time you're seeing me, I have no idea. And if it is, hey, thanks, right? I am a believer in there's no wrong way to generate a client. And I'm also a believer that just like if your stockbroker came to you and said, "Let's sell everything and put all of it into Apple," that would be a bad idea. I mean, Apple's a great stock and a wonderful company, but there's something about risk and asset allocation. It's something that I've been talking about for 17 years, since Ron and I really, really started working together a bunch, right? Knowing each other before, but then really helping agents, starting 17 years ago, where we're like, let's help agents understand, just like you would diversify your portfolio, you need to diversify where you generate clients. The more lead pillars you have, the bigger the funnel gets, the more research phase and ready phase buyers and sellers you find. So you can see there's just an example of like 8 different things that we work on with our clients. I'm really going to talk to you about one today. One, because it's the greatest opportunity that most of you have simply not taken advantage of. So with that said, the first thing is, and I've been talking about this a bunch, and if you saw my Facebook Live that blew up last week, talking about Zillow and others coming into the industry and the things that they're doing. And what it always irks me is when people use complaint, bitching, moaning, and getting angry as a tactic for business. I'm a believer it doesn't matter what the competition does, right? Zillow's going to Zillow along. The more important issue is, what are you going to do? So I'm telling people right now, this is how you position yourself. This is how you make sure you defend your position. You, as Warren Buffett would say, you dig a deeper moat around your castle to protect your business. And I'm telling people, you got to over-index on Google reviews. You got to build your Google page, right? You got to create content that keeps you top of mind and attracts new clients. You got to have a weekly email strategy. You got to use direct mail. You got to make your phone calls. You got to do all that stuff. And I would argue all of it starts because the first people that you're losing are the people in your database. Let me say it to you again. The first clients you're losing are the people that are in your database, because you think that your one trick pony, that email you send, that two direct mail pieces that you send a year, right, is a strategy that's actually going to work against, companies that are spending billions of dollars on advertising to win over the hearts and minds of customers. If you got on later, I started by saying, right now there's a couple sitting at their dining room table and they've been working there since March 19th. And all of a sudden they just hang up the phone or hop off the Zoom call because their manager just said, we're not going back to the office. We're all doing great, productivity's through the roof, stay at home, and here we go. And then their 7-year-old and 5-year-old and 3-year-old went by and both dogs started barking. And they looked at each other and said, we need another house. And let me tell you, in that moment, they don't go to you. They go right to Zillow, right to Realtor, right to Trulia, right to Home Finder, right to something else. And because that's the way the world is today. Don't get mad about it. Do something about it. Speaking of, the other one you really need to do is this. So my buddy Raluca Monet, who used to run all advertising for Google, for the real estate side, right, for real estate and mortgage, before she transitioned to go now work on the Chrome team. So she calls me like 3 months ago and she's like, hey, Ferry, heads up. We're launching a new service. People are putting in every day into Google, best real estate agent in Tacoma, best real estate agent in Raleigh. And we're going to create a little ad product for that. I'm like, brilliant. I will tell all my clients about it immediately. So it may already be sold out in your marketplace, but you still want to take a look at it. So Google local ad services as another way. So when they type it in, bam, you show up like my guy Willie there. All right, so let's keep jamming. You ready? I said I'm going to talk to you about your database. So let's actually do an exercise. The first thing I'm going to tell you is this: make your calls. And you're going to say, yeah, I know. And I argue that, you know how to make your calls. Many of you don't. The question is, do you know why to make your phone calls? But let's do something tactically first. I actually just grabbed my phone and I want you to do the same. I want you to grab your phone. I want you to go to your contacts. So I'm going to my contacts, right? iPhone, go to my contacts. I'm going to go down to the bottom, Z, through the pound sign, and guess what I see? I have 5,385 contacts. 5,385 contacts. So everyone says, there's no inventory. And I say, how many people do you have in your database? And how many times this year or last year did you talk to them? If you're one of my clients, you knew that in March and April and May, we were reaching out to every single person in our database and just saying, how are you? And are you okay? Not have you had any thoughts of selling, but just, are you and your family okay? Right? We're dealing with the pandemic. We're dealing with the shutdown. I had clients that were delivering medication, food to elderly clients, that were helping people get set up on Zoom and other ways so they can communicate with their friends and family around the world. Like it was this all out sort of expression of care for their customers. So now when they're making phone calls and saying, hey, have you had any thoughts of selling? Their trust is just off the charts with people. If you haven't made the phone calls, we need to start. Because if you think about the average consumer moves every 10 years, and if you just had 100 people in your database, that means there's 10 every 10 years, right? There's 10. They're going to do something this year. And guess what? Your marketing isn't enough. I'm going to talk to you about all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you don't do this one, you've already lost. So here's your goal. Find the research phase sellers before the spring market. Now, I know many of you will say, Tom, the spring market started in October of 2020. I know, I get it. I'm studying the numbers too. But what we need to find out now is, who are those people that are thinking about putting their home on the market in spring to make that summer move, right? We all know the game, especially I think the vast majority of us are in the US. We know the seasonality, right? If you're one of my clients in Minnesota, right, they are killing it right now because they're finding all the people that want to put their home on the market, whether it's the end of March or beginning of April, in many cases, even putting them on the home now and selling with 15 or 20 offers. So that's your goal. How do we do it? You ask this question. Just take a look at this for a second. Imagine if you called every client and just said, hey, Craig, Tom, Ferry, checking in. What's going on, Mark? Hey, Ron, hey, Kate. I've just been asking all my best clients like you this question. How has COVID in the last year of a pandemic changed the way you feel about your home? How has COVID in the last year of the pandemic how has it just changed the way you look at your home? And people just, oh my goodness, I wish I had a backyard. I wish I was closer to the lake. I wish I had this, I had that. We don't have enough space. We have too much space. I'm on the wrong side of town. I want to be over here. They tell you everything because you're asking the right question and you say it in a thoughtful way, right? It's really powerful. I hope you're capturing this, right? This one is, it's winning right now, big time. But also take a look at this. I'm a big fan of like what I would call confidence boosters, right? Different from just like scripts and dialogues, but just like things that put you in a position to be the knowledge broker. So I think if you called every person in your database, and by the way, you start at Z and you work your way up, right? You don't just call your besties. You start at Z and you work your way up. And you're like, Ron, just want to let you know, home price appreciation in Dearborn, Michigan between 2019 and 2020 so far has been X. So congratulations, right? Like you did good. Inventory though, on the other hand, like the number of homes that are currently on the market right now is 2/3 off our normal levels. 2/3 off. Like we're 66% less homes for sale, and buyer demand right now is so strong. And we haven't even seen the vast majority of the millennials come to market that want to buy and take advantage of the interest rates that they're in. I mean, it's driving prices through the roof. I'm sure you've heard about it. And the thing I want to just stress to you, Ron, is that sellers in 2021 are going to capitalize not only on record low interest rates, but incredible buyer demand, and how change or COVID has just changed the way we view our home, right? Who do you guys know what's thinking about selling, right? Have you guys had any thoughts of selling? Like those questions, this information, your job is to build and maintain trust, right? How could you do that if you're not staying in communication and bringing them interesting value and details that they can't just go find on any one of the other portals or websites? Something to think about. Ready? Another easy one for you guys. This is one of those like, hey, you could start this tomorrow and don't do it to everybody all at once. Pace it out. Do 3 to 5 a day. I'm asking you to go through all your sales from 2010 forward. Everybody that bought at the bottom of the bottom, maybe that was 2012, depending upon your market, to 2018. And the appreciation, the home price appreciation they experienced was bonkers. I'm arguing for you put it together, you mail it, ready? You write them a handwritten note, Nancy, congratulations, don't you wish you would have bought 2, and you circle it, right? You highlight the price, and then you follow up the phone call. This is a really good one, by the way, for that past client that you're like, oh, I totally screwed up that deal. And at the end, it was wonky and I didn't want to talk to them and they didn't want to talk to me. But it was 10 years ago. Okay, so I'll send this. And you're like, just congratulations, right? And reaching out. I promise you, they're going to all those websites anyway to figure out the value of their home. If you're not activating this, my friends, someone else is. Make sense? All right. Ask this question. At what price would you consider selling your home? What a great question. Like, I know you guys love your house, and I know, I'm so happy I was able to get it for you 5 years ago, and it's gone up so much in value. But I'm just curious, like, if somebody walked in today all cash, what's the number that would cause you to say, yeah, for that price, we'd sell? And I've been talking about this since 2015, telling clients, you need to ask every person in your database this question, log it in your CRM, because eventually that price is going to get there and you need to call them and say, hey, guess what? Or as many people are finding out that sellers don't even, they're like, God, if I got like 550, you're like 550, I can get you 585 right now, right? And then you get into the dialogue. So what would you guys do? And where would you go? And how could I help? And let's talk this through, because that's a pretty realistic price, right? Being there with them on the front lines, letting them know what's going on, staying active. That's how the best people are winning right now, my friends. They're doing all those other things I mentioned, all of that stuff, and they're working their database. So you all get this question all the time. How's the market, right? And I wrote a script like, 17, 18 years ago. People would say, how do you respond to that? I'm like, well, don't be Tommy Hopkins and say, it's great. And don't be honest and say, oh my God, it's so hard. There's no inventory and I'm struggling. Don't say that. But instead, if you really think about it, the market's really challenging. We simply don't have enough homes to sell for the number of buyers who desperately want to live right here in our neighborhood. It's a classic supply and demand issue. And I'm just curious, like, why are you asking? What's on your mind, right? Understand that people are prospecting you when they say, how's the market, right? It's not just friendly chatter, because housing is 17% of the GDP of the US. It's a big deal. Home price values and equity in properties, 42.1% of all homes in America have no mortgage. Think about that. It's 138 million homes, 42% have no mortgage, and a ton of people still have an interest rate that do have a rate at like 4. And if you study, just as I do, the overarching market, especially the forbearance numbers, the 2.7 million that are under forbearance right now, only 1% of all of the forbearance properties are upside down. Everything else has between 3 to 75, 80%, value in the property that if they decide to sell it. I mean, the numbers are startling. Are you the knowledge broker? Can you answer really what's going on in the market? Maybe use a script like this to find out what they're really thinking about. Let's keep jamming. By the way, I had to throw this up. I do a show every other week with the guys from Keeping Current Matters called This Week in Housing. It's one of my most popular shows, whether you listen to my podcast or Facebook or YouTube, wherever. You might want to check it out. But we talked about this just a few weeks ago that, in December of 2019, we had 3.6 months of inventory. And you see there in the red where we were in December, and it's even more bleak sitting here in February, right? The reality is, if you're not sharing this kind of information in your email, in your texting, on your social, to let people know what's going on and what it means to them, you're missing the boat. Now, here is the biggest no-brainer of all. I'm gonna take a quick little sip of water. Take a look at these numbers, and I'll share with you the texting script that my clients are using to produce these kind of numbers on average. Now, before I do, we all know that this little device, but it was like 90% response rate on text messages, 85% response rate versus email that if we're lucky, they, 25% open and 1 or 2% click through. So texting, and specifically SMS, thoughtful SMS, is where it's at. So the texting script I'm going to give you in a minute, here's the example. Over a 4-week period, which is what we recommend, don't do 181 today. It's a bad idea. You won't be able to handle the response. 144 people responded, 44 people raised their hand, 38 people CMAs created, 12 of them are research phase sellers. They want to move in 1 to 2 years. These are people in your database that have raised their hand and said, yeah, Rob, we definitely want to move in the next 1 to 2 years. This is happening. Kids are going away. We want to downsize. We want to upsize. We're going to start a family, whatever it is. We're moving to Michigan, right? But think about that. Just through a texting strategy, he identified 12 people that are thinking about it, and 38 said, yeah, I am curious about the exact value of my home versus what I'd find on Zillow or anything else. 3 listings taken, not bad. 4 clients referred to their lender to get refied, right? That's good. And 2 clients got pre-approved to buy an investment property. So what if I told you the script is nothing more than this? Hey, Ron, hope you're doing well. Hope you and the family are doing great. Crazy times. The real estate market is bananas. And yes, you actually put the banana emoji in there, because think about it. I'm getting all these text messages and one has like 7 bananas in it. And I'm like, 7 bananas, what's that? If you haven't heard, I was reaching out to see if you're curious about the new value of your home. Send. Change name, send. Change name, send. Change name, send. Look at the numbers, my friends. It's not complicated. This isn't rocket science, right? It's about execution. It's about scheduling it and designing your day around, I'm going to get appointments and go on appointments. That's my mission. That's how I'm going to do my part in this crazy real estate market. Now, side note, before we're done here and go into a little Q&A, I have an event coming up right away, full day on the 2nd, half day on the 3rd. If you're the kind of person that wants to build a team and you actually want the blueprint for each role, when to hire them, how to hire them, what to look for, how to compensate them, what to hold them accountable to, from marketing assistant to videographer to ops manager to sales agents to listing agents, the whole gamut. That's the first half of the day 1 on March 2nd. The balance of the day is all on the marketing, all those other things that we couldn't talk about today. Just talking about your database as an example. The second day, the 3rd, we spend all of our time basically showing you how to become a tech-enabled business, which means you run your entire business from this by introducing you to the best of class in tech. So if it makes sense for you, you guys got a little special there, take advantage of it. It's all virtual. You plug in, we hang out for a day and a half, and you get a lot of value and a lot of clarity. All right, let's keep jamming. I wanted to say this to you guys because at the end of the day, just take a look at that. Execution. Right? Execution is the greatest degree of separation. It's what makes you better than anybody else out there, any big internet company, any big new competitor coming in the marketplace, the discount broker, etc. It is your ability to execute, right? And if I gave you one other word, the word would be resiliency, right? It was really the word I used all of last year. And if we didn't get a chance to connect, what I was telling people is like resiliency by my definition is the ability to get punched in the face, market adjustments, COVID, all these changes, all these challenges, all this stuff coming at you, and actually turn it into a competitive advantage that fuels you to go out and do the work. You see, I believe resiliency is required in a market that is screaming hot when you're struggling to get your feet, right. And how do I generate more listings? And what do I need to do? And I'm afraid to make the phone call. That's another example, getting punched in the face by what's happening in the market, right? What we have to do, my friends, is be resilient and turn these challenges into competitive advantages and move ourselves forward. So with that said, right, I'm going to turn this off and go back to the all video. And by the way, Kate, if you can make it where I'm the lead, because right now I think I see Craig as the lead. Either one is fine, but just saying. I'm going to go to the Q&A, and I want to know how I can help. So Betty Lee asked, thank you. And I'm just going to start going into the Q&A, my friends, and I'll answer anything you got. And actually, I'll do one better, right? I see Brian Decker just posted a question. So everyone write down my text number. So if you want to text me, my number is 949. I'm now going to space on it. This is horrible. 216-5466. 949-216-5466. 949-216-5466. I get, 50 to 75 people asking me a question every day. How do I do this? What do you recommend here? Hey, is this really Tom Ferry? All that fun stuff. So Betty Lee asks, what is 5542? So Betty, if we were sitting down with you and we wanted to help organize your business from a marketing and lead generation standpoint as one pillar of success, I would say to you, how many transactions you want to do? And let's just say you say, I want to do 50. Well, what we know is the average agent, let's just call it medium producer, about every 40 people they talk to, they make a sale. Every 40 people they talk to, they make a sale. So we try and figure out what's your daily number. If you're going to work 10 months out of the year, 5 days a week of making phone calls, I want to get to that number. So for most of my clients, what it looks like is 10 conversations a day, because they've got big goals. So we divide that 10 into two buckets, people in your database and people not in your database. So 5, the first one is 5 people a day in your database. And the 5 new ones are people you don't know that you're putting into your database if the conversation goes right. Could be a referral, could be an internet lead, could be an email lead, could be an open house lead, anything you want. So 5 existing, 5 new people, and then 4 people in follow-up, because we all know all the magic's in follow-up. All right. So Diane said, hey, could you please show us that text message again? So Diane, I've already emailed the team. I'm sure I could pull it up, but I've already emailed the team and they're going to send it to you guys, the entire presentation, everything I showed you, because I talk fast. I wanted to do like 3 hours worth of content and they gave me 40 minutes, just saying. So I could show it to you. Let's see if I can do it real quick. It will take me a second and then I'll jump back.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine, Tom. Yeah, we've got the copy of that. So let's keep moving. I want to do that. But I also want to make sure, anybody who's out there that does not have an AmeriFirst, AmeriTrust, or AmeriUno loan officer, feel free to reach out to Consider It Done at AmeriFirst.com, and we can hook you up with that. We've got some great marketing materials and slicks to show some of the stuff that you're talking about, Tom, about marketability, what the increase has been, what the appreciation has been in certain markets. We can co-brand, co-market with all of these agents. So be sure to reach out to your AmeriFirst, AmeriTrust, AmeriUno loan officers, and we can take care of a lot of that for you. And we'll get this slide deck to anybody. Again, Consider It Done at AmeriFirst.com. If you don't have a loan officer, we'll get you hooked up with one. We'll get you the slide deck. Take care of you.
And maybe Craig, we can give one email account. So if they just said, hey, where do I go on the site when I get there? Maybe just, hey, email you or whoever on the team, so we can hook them up. Do you guys do that?
Yep, Consider It Done at AmeriFirst.com. That takes care of everything. It should be easy to remember, and we'll get you whatever you want.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to jam and do some Q&A, guys. This is the part I love. So Craig Engel asks, hey, is it a good idea to mail out unsolicited CMAs to my farm area? Is it a good idea to mail out unsolicited CMAs to my farm area? Craig, the answer is 1000% yes. Absolutely. Start doing it. I'm a huge fan of geographic farming. The vast majority of our clients are geographic farmers. So no doubt doing that is a really good idea. The key is, let's say your farm territory is 500 and I have clients in New York City that it's 80,000. You got to say to yourself, okay, how many of these can I mail, organize, make them look right, protect your brand, your image, right? Your desire to have them be, your client. So they got to look right. Can you add a gift to it? At the minimum, a handwritten note just saying, wanted to share this with you, right? Like give them some insight, a little love, right? Do that. Maybe you do 5 a week and you make it something that you do 5 a week, 10 a week, whatever that number is. So you get through the entire farm in a year versus sending 500 on a weekend. And then now you can't follow up because when you send it, you want to have it be 2-step. Send it, call, send it, call. Hey, it's me. I sent this to you. I just wanted to let you know home price values have improved dramatically. And I just wanted you to know the exact value of your home. Like do that. And then it's really good. If you just mail, it's okay. Linda Matson says, I have a limited technology ability. How do I do SMS texting? So SMS is texting, Lydia, Linda, excuse me. So Linda, you take that texting script, you go to Z in your phone, you text the first person, you copy or type in the first time all the text, put in their name, hit send, and then copy, go to the next one, paste, change the name, hit send. You can do it, my dear. I promise. Don't worry about, buying some expensive SMS software. That is all available usually inside a more robust CRM system. For today, just like when you send a text message to any one of your friends, do that with that texting script, but don't hit more than, maybe 30 this week because you will get inundated with responses. Congrats. Okay, Laura Jewell says, is a Facebook business account worth the effort? The answer is 1000% yes, because today Facebook and Google represent 33% of all ad spend in the world. So yeah, Facebook's a really good idea. Whether you're boosting a listing, boosting a video, sharing some information, putting out there that, you've got 4 buyers that are desperate to buy in this community. Who do you know? Like there's so many ways that you can do it. I know a lot of clients running Facebook ads and getting ridiculously low-priced potential seller leads that they can then incubate and nurture over several years. And the ROI is just bonkers, but you got to have a business page to do it. All right. So Donna Pincham says, hey, I want to learn how to read real estate market data. What book would you recommend for beginners understanding the real estate market for dummies? I love it. So Donna, what I would ask you to do instead of reading a book is instead, I would look at, for example, showingtime.com. And I know the controversy around, Zillow, but like they still have really good data on what's happening with showings. That's a wonderful leading indicator. I would look all the time at where you're at, maybe from Craig and his team or from your title rep on where inventory levels are today versus a year ago versus 5 years ago, right? Then I would do a correlation to that to the stock market. I'd look at it next to oil. I'd put it next to gold. I would just start looking for these different connections. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to take all this data, all this information, and then you're going to go to your broker and say, I'm looking at all this stuff. What do you see? Then go to the top agent in your office and say, what do you see? And then go to your lender and say, what do you see? And your lender's going to say, put the 10-year treasury in there as well, because that's the indicator of interest rates. Oh yeah, great. And all of a sudden what's going to happen is instead of you like, I got to read and dissect 7 different books to find the correlations, find it with the people that you already know, right? Grab those data points that I just shared and then go ask 15 or 20 people, because then you could say to a client, I spend a lot of time looking at the market and I look at the 10-year treasury. I look at showing time data. I look at year-over-year inventory levels. I look at condos versus new construction. I look at this, I look at that. But then the one thing I do that most people don't is I ask about 20 of the most successful agents in town, what do they see? And the interesting thing is we all saw 5 different correlations. Holy shizzle. You do that, I'm going to be like, can we do a Zoom meeting? I'd like to have you come talk to my office and educate everybody in my company about what's going on. Make sense? All right. So let's see here. Valentina, I love that name, says, what do you think about SILD calling? I think that was cold calling. Is there a strategy that works? So Valentina, I keep saying 1000%. I'll just give you like 115% on this one. The answer is yes. Matter of fact, 2 things you got to be aware of. First, the do not call list is very real, right? There are single dialers where you can dial one number at a time. That is legal. If you use a multi-dialer, in some states, that is deemed breaking the phone police policy. So rule number one is always like, do the right thing, right? Don't put yourself or your business in harm's way. Don't do the wrong thing, right? Don't call people that you shouldn't, and don't use a technology that in your state isn't able to be used unless, of course, you're a politician. But that's a whole other story. I'll give you an example. My client, Maxine Gellens, Ron knows her very well. Maxine is 83 years old. She will, well, let's see, last year she did $4.2 million in commissions on about 97 sales in La Jolla, California, which is like, call it, $2.5 million average sales price. And she cremates it. She is a legend, been my client for almost 22 years now. Her grandson, Zach, got into the business. And at 23, out of college, he was struggling, right? Even though he doesn't look young, he's still young. He just doesn't have the experience. So you know what we did? We finally pulled him aside and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have you call around recent sales in these 3 communities at a lower price point. We'll call it under $1 million. And I know that makes a bunch of you want to punch these people, but that in their marketplace. And guess what? Del Cerro, I think, was the community specifically. And all of a sudden he would just call and say, hey, it's Zach from the Gallons. I wanted to let you know, we just had another sale down the street, but the challenge is we got like 15 buyers that wrote an offer on that home. Did you see the property, the Joneses? Did you see that they sold that? Yeah, we represented them. They're like, and the client's like, why? It's like 15 offers. What does that mean? Well, I can't disclose the price until it's finalized, but 15 people aggressively wrote offers. And the challenge now is I've got 14 buyers that are crying in their soup, and I got one new happy neighbor for you. And I was just curious, like, do you know anybody here in Del Cerro that is considering making a move? Because man, I got all these buyers that are clamoring. They're paying crazy prices. Do you guys know anybody? And that dialogue is crushing right now. It's unbelievable. Follow the rules though, always. So Valentina, I hope that helps. So Lynn says, how do you get phone numbers for homeowners in areas you're farming? So Lynn, I invested in a company 3 or 4 years ago called Remine, REMINE, Remine. So coal data, you can get it from Remine, you can get it from, there's a lot of list brokers on the internet, but I think coal and Remine would be the 2 easier ones. By the way, totally unrelated, but just here we are amongst friends. Remine, when I invested in that company, started by a great agent actually from DC, and then transitioned out of selling houses and did this full time. Huge company now. They're in 85% of every MLS in the US. So it's inside of the MLS. You just got to search Remine. It's a data mining site. The reason I invested in it, imagine you can go into Remine and you can say, you're in Boston, right? Where my wife's family's from. And I would literally go on and I would circle a big chunk of East Boston. And I would say, hey, show me every 2-bedroom, right? Not 2-bedroom, 2-story house where the owner is 75 years or older and there's no mortgage. And boom, they would show you every property that matched that criteria. First time I saw it, I was like, OMG, this is the greatest listing tool on the planet. 1,000 different data points you could query. And of course, mailing addresses, phone numbers, it's all inside there. So check out Remine or Cole, and I'm spacing on Cole, but if you Google phone numbers, Cole, it's that company. Huge company, been around forever. Okay, let's keep jamming. Anna Smith says, do you think a magazine ad where I'll be the only realtor in a target area is still a good way to put your money out for advertising? So Anna, the way I look at advertising like that is the same way I look at my clients that do billboards or my clients that have the, bus benches or that kind of stuff. It's always, Anna, the thing you've already done. You've done 6 or 7 other things. And this is just that one more thing that causes people to say, I see you everywhere. But if you said to me, I got $2,000 and I'm going to put it into this one, 90-day ad strategy where no other agents are, I would say to you, that's a bad idea, right? I'd rather take that $2,000 and go buy a bunch of very thoughtful, super cool gifts. I'd go get Cutco knives for every one of my my past clients that bought a house from me 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and just say, I'm thinking about you. That would be, in my opinion, you'd get a better ROR versus ROI. We all want the return on investment. But what I find is when you spend money like that and you do it thoughtfully, you get ROR, return on relationships, which is like 50x. So just food for thought. Because again, I can't get the dialogue back and forth with you, but that's what I'm thinking about. Sophia, thank you. Cole Realty Resource. Thank you so much. Okay. Let me look real faster and see what else. So Betty Lee says, I have heard that it's better to post on Instagram versus Facebook. What do you think? The answer is no, they're both fantastically busy. The key is, Betty Lee, you can go into your Facebook or Instagram ad manager or your platform to figure out like optimal times to post. That's probably the more important thing today. Or Google alt text, ALT text. Alt text allows me to put keywords into my photo, into my video on Instagram as an example. So when people are searching for homes for sale in Duluth, I use that, my posts start to show up, right? There's a bunch of hacks and things that you can do, but beyond that, ready? Instagram and Facebook, the answer is video first. That needs to be your strategy. Video first. Facebook and Instagram, I was on the early adopter test video platform for Facebook. I forget the name of it. It was like 5 years ago. They're like, Ferry, check this out. I'm like, wait a minute. You mean I could actually like hit a button and go live on Facebook and talk to all my friends? Like, this is nuts. And that today is still the best strategy. They're a video first advertising platform. So video, Instagram and Facebook, do them both. Cross share, right? Every time you're posting here, it goes there and vice versa. That'll help. Okay, Matthew says, took a leap of faith, leaving corporate world to do real estate. Where should I put my focus as a new full-time agent? There are so many avenues of marketing. So Matthew, I cover this one a lot. I've done it on my YouTube show. I've answered it countless times on Instagram Q&As, which I've got one going right now. So if you're not following me on Instagram, go to Instagram, Tom Ferry, hit the little icon of my face, follow the stories, see the poll that I'm asking people today, and then ask me a question there. And then you'll see there's a lot of action there. But here's the simple answer. Ready, Matthew? Number one, you got to organize your database. Number two, you got to get a CRM and put everybody inside of it. Three, you need to get any free email newsletter from your company and start emailing the introduction and insights and new listings and things that are happening in the brokerage to the people that already know you, like you, and trust you, right? I'm just rattling off a bunch. Ready? Number four, you need to figure out your story. Your story is going to be paramount. So Matthew, why did you leave corporate America to go into real estate? Specifically, what was the problem that you identified in the marketplace that you had a unique solution for? Try this on, Matthew. The world doesn't need another real estate agent. We don't, right? There's 7 or 8 million if you go around the world. And in the US with 1.4 million that are deemed Realtor versus people with their license, which is like 2.5 million. And there was only 5.5 million homes sold or 5.7 million homes sold last year. Two sides called, close to 12 million transactions. Like there's already too many agents. So if you don't have a really great story, I'm not going to remember you or I'm not going to care. So what's the problem that you identified, right? What's the challenge that you identified? How do you solve it in a unique way? That story is going to allow you to tell it once or twice and have people remember you and say, oh, you got to call my friend Matthew because he knows how to solve this problem. Make sense? Then I would tell you circle dialing is a good idea. Just like I mentioned the woman earlier with the question, it's a really good idea for you to get your feet wet. If there are for sale by owners and expired listings in your market, you should do it. But listen to me, Matthew, not because you're trying to get a listing, because you want to understand what's going on in the hearts and in the minds of the DIYers, the do-it-yourself people. Why did you try and sell on your own, right? Like, help me understand what your process was. So then when you're hanging around the friends, socially distancing around a fireplace or whatever you're doing, and someone says, Matthew, you're in real estate, how's it going? You say, well, it's interesting. Did you know that right here in our town, there's 175 people that are trying to sell their home on their own? And fascinatingly enough, if you look at the data from sold.com or FSBR.com, after month 3, they all end up calling a real estate agent because the vast majority of them never sell. So I thought, I'm going to call every one of them, just ask why. And there was basically 3 primary reasons why they told me they were trying to do it. And then afterwards, When it didn't sell, I called them again and found out the two things that they felt they did wrong. And I just thought it was an interesting, sort of case study of what's happening in the world today. All of a sudden, Matthew, your friends are like, what? Like that's cooler than, Ted, who's an agent, who's like, hey, what's going on, man? You always want to buy a house, right? He's got no story. He's got no swag. He's a good guy, but he doesn't have the data. The data and the interesting insights make you memorable. I hope you got that. All right. Anonymous attendee asks, what is the best way to balance business when you don't make enough to pay an admin, yet your business is growing drastically? Well, first of all, anonymous attendee, congratulations. Take a look at a company called Transactly. Transactly, yeah, that's a mouthful. Transactly. They give you free transaction management software, and they provide for low cost transaction coordinators that will do all that work. So the answer is, instead of going full-time with an assistant, part-time outsource marketing. Yes, you can outsource marketing. You can outsource transactions, freeing you up to do what matters most. So you might want to come to that Blueprint event. I think it'd be very, very good for you. So make sure you check that out. Great question, by the way, Anonymous. All right. Julie Nicole said something. Sorry, Julie, I'm screwing up your name there. I apologize. So, okay, I just used the text and got a response that, yes, I do. If you sell high, you have to buy high. How should I respond to that? First of all, Julie, I love you. I would do seminars all the time, and I would say to everybody, okay, before the break, everyone text 10 people right now, and I'd come back from the break and people would be like this, I just got a listing appointment. Oh my God, this person already sold their house. So Julie, I love you. So ready? If I sell high, I have to buy high. I would respond back with, that really depends on what your goals are. Sounds like we should get together. We could do it over Zoom, or we can meet safely face-to-face. Let me know what you'd like to do. And I go right for the close, right? It really does depend. I mean, what if, Julie, this person is trading up? Then yeah, they're going to be paying a premium. What if they're trading down? Yeah, they're going to be paying a premium because the price ranges are moving up faster, but they've got all this equity. You need to understand the dynamics of what their goals are before you can just blatantly say that's sure or it isn't. Make sense? All right. So I know it's 1 o'clock, and Craig and Ron and Doug and Mark and Kate and everybody, I could do this all day long, but my next session with a client, they would be a little upset. Yes. So
we understand.
Yeah. As I wrap, text me, guys, or go to my Instagram today, Instagram, Tom Ferry, TOMFERRY, and ask more questions there. I'll be doing it all weekend long, which I have a tendency to do, or text me 949-216-5466. But as I wrap, I just want to say to my pals, first of all, I love you guys. Thank you so much, Ron and Doug and Mark and Craig and Kate, which I saw and then I couldn't see. Thank you for allowing me to do what I do and just help more people get more listings. So appreciate you guys.
Tom, this was amazing. Can you do me a favor and just drop the mic somewhere? Just find a mic and drop it. Yeah, it's like you blew my mind. You blew our mind. I've got 12-page of notes. Thank God, Craig, this is recorded.
Yes.
This was if your goal was to blow us away today, you did more than that. I thank you, brother. You were phenomenal. It's so great to have you. I'll pass this over to Mark.
All right, guys. And I got to bounce. Lots
Thanks,
of love.
Tom. Awesome stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much.